Hello, good morning. It's Imogen here with Body Intelligence, and Shay and I are continuing our video conversations about stress and trauma and neurobiology and body intelligence. And we wanted to do this conversation today because some people might think, I'm stressed, I haven't been traumatized. How is learning about trauma relevant for me? I'm just stressed, right? I just need to deal with the stress. And I think it can be useful. And I wanted to talk with Shay about this. Shay's a trauma awareness activist and has sadly experienced quite a lot of trauma in her life, and has been my client and worked with Body Intelligence and is now collaborating with me to provide programs for people who are dealing with trauma and stress. So welcome, Shay. And why don't we just start with actually defining what is stress, what is trauma, and what have they got to do with each other or not? With the basics. Can you start there?
Sure. I see them on a continuum, although stress is just normal, is our response to normal situations that cause us to need extra activation, extra attention, extra hormones for a brief period of time, such as dealing with, your boss comes in and gives you whatever, yaps at you and leaves and, leaves you in a funk or something. Or, normal life stresses, having children, a difficult birth, a divorce. Those are all normal stresses. Trauma is when the experience is overwhelming. We can't deal with it. That's the definition, that it's too much or too little for too long.
Mm-hmm. So what a situation that might be, in quotes, just stressful for one person might, because of it might on the outside seem like the same thing, but for another person who maybe doesn't have support in the same way, has had other things happen as well, could become a traumatic situation.
Yes, yeah, our stress level, actually a higher stress level predisposes us to being traumatized, more likely traumatized, because we're already at the edge of the tolerance of our the stress on our nervous system. It can only take so much. And if you have wiring for 110 volts and you put 550 in it, something bad is going to happen. Or if you just keep running it, at double at 220 for too long, it's going to do it, but it's going to burn it out. And
I'm thinking
that's the same thing. It overloads our nervous system.
It just made me think, stress is normal, and actually a completely stress-free life would not be a healthy life. It sounds wonderful, but you know what I mean. There'd be stress can help us grow and stretch and do difficult things, that are meaningful. And yet so many people, that's not what we think of when we think of stress. We think of when it's
like oppressive, not the type of energized, but oppressive.
Yes. And I think most people, stress doesn't seem to be a one-off thing. It's kind of can become a modus operandum, not it can be both self-perpetuated, but a lot perpetuated from.
Right. Yeah. If you have a stressful commute every day, 5 days, 6 days, whatever days a week, that is chronic stress. Your commute, even if you love your job, even if everything's great at your job and there's no problems ever.
What job is that, Shay?
Mine.
Okay. So you could easily see how chronic stress could become traumatizing, because
Mhm.
if that's too much for too long, um,
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
it wears you down and wears
yeah.
down your resources
It
and
might not be one event, which we
Mhm.
typically, I think most of us think about
Right, a car
because
accident or an
yeah,
injury or something,
yeah,
a very big one-off thing, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there's actually a term, CUTS, C-U-T-S, chronic unpredictable toxic stress.
Mm,
Uh, I forget who came up with it, but it really seems to fit a lot of our lifestyle.
mm,
Uh,
yeah,
that so many of our workplace cultures are really toxic to human existence and well-being. Uh,
yeah,
and
yeah,
even the news these days is very toxic to us.
yeah, yeah. So, could you talk a little bit about the neurobiology of trauma and how that's kind of relevant to everyday, should we call it everyday stress, normal stress, whatever that is. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we all have a nervous system, and it runs through our entire body. And pretty much our whole culture acts like we don't have one, which means we should
Mm,
pay attention. Um, it's nervous system having a regulated nervous system is really important to having a good life. And
mm,
if we can learn about it before we become severely dysregulated, we can keep ourselves regulated and avoid PTSD. We can actually prevent PTSD by understanding how our nervous systems work and helping each other after a traumatic event.
mm,
So it's kind of like, oh, I have this, this first aid training in my pocket, even if I don't ever need it. If about half of all people will have at least one traumatic event in their life, that
mm,
means like half of all the people you know. Uh, and you can help them by understanding your neurobiology and theirs so that if they are traumatized, you can recognize the signs of that and you can help them process this tiny little bit
mm,
and help them understand how they can help themselves and each other heal as well.
mm. So do you think, we teach courses that are for people dealing with trauma and or chronic stress. Do you think the teaching and what people learn needs to be should be different? Um,
No,
if you're dealing with a different,
different audience or different.
yeah.
No, because it is a spectrum, and because the principles of the neurobiology are the same across the spectrum. That it's about our nervous systems, what happens to our
Mm,
nervous systems, and how we can mindfully apply this knowledge to build healthier nervous systems for better living.
So
So
I'm
it's all
just
the same.
so I'm thinking, like, for me, the practices that and ideas and concepts that I teach are essentially the same for someone who might be dealing with back pain,
Hmm.
to someone who is, I'm sure stress is involved, and there is stress on the body. The stress is not
Sure.
just a mental, emotional thing, right?
Hmm.
Um, um, but the same tools that help us calm our nervous system, help us release tension in our body, help
Hmm.
us.
Connect more
So
with
it
our
seems to
bodies,
me,
understand what's
there's a different context. It might be
happening.
customized slightly differently, um, but the
Yeah,
basic
but
tools
that's
are.
one of the things about your work that interested me right from the beginning is how extremely gentle and non-coercive it is. It's just so
Mm.
inherently trauma informed because of that.
Without initially being consciously trauma
Yeah,
informed. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because it's neurobiologically sound. And that's what really attracted me to, I mean, as you know, that
Yeah.
kept me coming back. It's like, wow, this is, what I've learned about the neurobiology of trauma supports this work. And that's why it feels so good. That's why it works so well. That's why it can change the quality of somebody's life really fast.
Yeah. So back to the point that no, you don't have to distinguish between what particular, whether it's trauma. You don't even have to know whether it's trauma or stress. That the tools will help everybody, basically.
Yeah, if your life isn't hunky-dory, this will help you.
Yeah. And if it is, it will help you.
That's true.
It will help you help
enjoy
others.
the hunky-dory
and enjoy it. Yeah, enjoy the hunky-doriness. I have to put it as on our webpage. Enjoy the hunky-doriness of life. Yeah. So just before we finish, in what other ways do you think being trauma informed or having tools that help with trauma can help us all? So anything else?
Well, statistically, like I said before, about half of all people will experience a trauma in their lifetime. But I think that's an old statistic. I think that's pre-pandemic. I think pretty much everybody now has been traumatized, if nothing else, even if their life has been just fabulously privileged and easy their whole life. And then the pandemic came, that, month after month after month of not knowing what's happening, of being afraid of other people, of having limited contact, of isolation, of, trying to figure out, should I get the next shot or should I not have shots, or any of that stuff. It's all very stressful, and it's constant, unpredictable, toxic stress. So we can all use this. And I think for me, the most powerful reason to do this is because not only by learning these things, not only am I healing myself, I'm learning that I can help heal the people around me and build this little culture of safe connections with people who understand this stuff too. Because if you're in my life, you're going to hear about this. That's what it is. Really? and to see that applied, like my friends and art colleagues and all that are applying this to their lives, and to see how it changes their lives and changes the connection between us. I think that is just so grassroots. It's really the revolutionary level, that interpersonal one-on-one, like changing the world one nervous system at a time.
It occurred to me that the combination of having an understanding of what's going on a neurobiological level, a basic, we don't mean like, but have a basic understanding, combined with some tools that help you better regulate your own nervous system, which is what we teach. It's what I teach in body intelligence. And with Shay, we have this lovely combination. I think that's kind of the ideal combination, that you have some tools. There are other tools, not just mine, but you have these tools in your toolkit. And you have a kind of understanding of what can be going on in yourself or in others.
And that can really help fuel one's, well, first of all, hope and recovery and interest in building the practice. When you can see how quickly it can improve interactions with that one person at work that you just have the hardest time with, and all of a sudden you're applying these practices and it's not quite so bad. And then over time it becomes more bearable, and then your attitude and affect at work feels better, and you feel less stressed driving to work. And it's just truly remarkable.
You never know where those ripples can go or flow. Anything else? You had a nice quote here that I had noted down from.
Yeah, I actually
your favorite.
My favorite, Dan Siegel. Yeah, I'm such a fangirl.
Maybe you can leave us with that.
I will, but I'll tell you so you're not surprised. I read it this morning, just a few minutes before he came on, and thought, oh my gosh, I love him to pieces, but he's so wordy and so technical. So I changed his quote quite a bit.
Okay. So this is from Dr. Dan Siegel, edited by Shay Seaborne.
Yeah. The last bar is all his, and the rest of it is paraphrased.
Okay. All right. your paraphrased quote.
This is from the interpersonal neurobiology lens.
Mm-hmm.
When we can recognize trauma or grief in ourselves, our loved ones, and other people around us, we can invite them to heal these losses so they too can gain a greater sense of wholeness and well-being inside themselves and create health-producing relationships with their children and others around them. What's not to like?
What is not to like? Yes. And that's from the neurobiology of we.
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah.
My favorite Dan Siegel book. Everybody should read it. Anybody who has a nervous system.
Yeah, so only don't read it if you don't have a nervous system. So, okay.
And it is audio, so yay.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for this conversation, Shay. And thank you for collaborating and joining me to offer these courses, the next one of which starts on Tuesday, Foundations of Regulation, where you can learn some of the neurobiology, and it's paired with learning on how to use some very simple tools in very, like you said, very kind of manageable, easy ways.
No shame.
To help you. Yeah, exactly. To regulate your nervous system. All right.
My pleasure. Thank you again.
Let us know if you have any questions. I see Tracy's been watching and she likes the culture of safe connection. So that's great. Thanks, Tracy. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.